Okay, episode number 12, the podcast, Cappy's Cage. Thanks for listening. Today, I want to address what I think is the three most difficult aspects of the game of baseball. Getting right into it, hands down by far, the hardest thing to do in this game is to execute positive results as a player, period. Okay, so the execution part on the player's behalf is the hardest thing to do. So let's not get this mixed up in any way, shape, or form. Playing the game at a high level and executing at a high level and being consistent and getting good results is the hardest thing to do in the game of baseball. And then, so I'm going to go down the list and then we'll tie it all together. Number 2, developing talent and creating ability. So it's the teacher trainer. Someone who can take somebody with talent and prepare it best for the next level, and then the next level, and then the next level. Creating ability, so the difference between developing talent and creating ability is taking somebody with not very much talent, but teaching them and ultimately giving them what they need to produce. And they'll have the ability to compete, and you'll bring them up to an not very talented baseball player to somebody who's able. And from there, crazy things can happen as far as how far a player can go and what they can achieve. For example, there's a long list of major league players, former major league players that had long careers, successful careers, championship level teams a part of, and they might have always been pegged as someone with not a lot of ability. But somewhere down the line, they worked with, and again, it's to their credit, hardest thing to do is execute yourself as a player. But somewhere down the line, they were introduced to something, a philosophy, a training program, experimentation process that led them to think about things differently. And they created this sense of ableness to do this. They acquired the ability to consistently do their job very well. So the trainer-teacher aspect, again, in my opinion, the second hardest thing to do in the game, next to playing it, is developing talent and creating ability. Okay? And then the third on the list of 3, in my opinion, is being a coach of a team, coaching a team. And I'm not downplaying the importance of being a great coach, because that's important. But, basically at the young level, the amateur level, the best players are usually going to win. The team with the best players are going to win, especially in a sport like baseball, where it's such skill-driven, different aspect. It's hard to pitch. It's hard to hit. It's hard to field and throw. Okay? It's such an individual, intense process of execution that it produces this sport where the best team usually wins. Okay? Yet, the baseball community is littered with coaches who think they're God's greatest gift to baseball, and their ego gets in the way of, helping kids, or money gets in the way, or different interests get in the way of develop at all costs, teach and learn at all costs, develop at all costs. That's the most important part. So coaching a team, even at the major league level, and I haven't got a chance to talk to any major league managers that have probably run the the course in their own careers from the player development side, teaching side, training side, to maybe even the management side of things, in the sense of like upper management or scouting or whatever. And then now they become a manager and they're sitting there with, 9 all-stars on their team, so does it help to have the best players on the field? Absolutely. But how do those players become the best players? Rewind, right? Back to number 2, the teaching and training, the development on an individual, on a small group basis, where kids are learning from masters in different skill sets, right? And there's a lot of different skill sets in baseball, right? Whether it's speed, fielding, throwing, hitting. So there's a lot to learn from a lot of people in that sense, the commitment level, etc. And then rewind back to the top. Number 1 is, can those players execute on their own? Do they have the ability to do that? So tying it all together, and kind of what's had me think about this a lot is, again, getting my message out for whatever it's worth, but having somebody listen to this that might be raising a young baseball player, and understanding the importance of the pecking order and what is important in a baseball player's career, right? And that is to learn how to execute, be consistent, get positive results at a high level, commit to some form of teaching and training. And then, if you're on a team, a lot of times we can't even control what team we're on or who our coach is. And I've had the pleasure to play for some outstanding, amazing coaches that combined a level of mentorship, leadership, teaching and training into their coaching. And that's a great way to coach. But a lot of times coaches don't have the awareness or experience or expertise to teach and train and drive the skill levels up. Drive those skill levels up. Get better, get better. So I think it's a fascinating topic. I don't really want to say argument, but if someone were have a different opinion or something, feel free to shoot me a message. But in my opinion, no one can doubt that the most difficult thing to do in this game is to execute positively as a player. And we lose that focus so much as a parent, as a coach, as someone just sitting on the sidelines. We forget how difficult this game is and how many people it chews up and spits out, and then life goes on, and then 10 years later you all of a sudden you're Johnny baseball coach and you know it all. And so that attitude really gets in the way of player development. Let the teachers and trainers do their thing. And just as I would let a coach of one of my players that I work with on an individual basis, they're going to do their own thing. I have no say-so, right? So, and again, like I said, I really respect coaches that go out and say and get the best resources for their players possible. And I think that's what it's all about, rather than sheltering them and sheltering them in a bubble and not getting perspective or opinion from others. I think that's important. So, there's more aspects of the game than playing it, teaching and training it, and coaching it on the field. And we could implement, hold a different conversation by saying, things like upper management and, being a general manager or being in the scouting department or, whatever. There's a lot of different aspects. But for this conversation, really, I'm talking about that dynamic of player, teacher, trainer, coach. Player, teacher, trainer, coach. And how we get the most out of ourselves as a player, and the path we're going to follow, and And I think that was pretty much covered. I think I said what I wanted to say. If anybody has any different opinions or feelings or something, just reach out. We'll talk about it. I think it's good to have a conversation. By all means, I don't do this to impose any will on anybody else. I do this to express my feelings and opinions. That's all it is. So thanks for listening. I'll be back. Episode 12. We're cooking now. I'll be back. Thanks.